as we get people joining in, I kind of want to give some framework to this conversation. We connected very, very recently, and I'm a big fan of a lot of the things that you're doing and up to, and just who you guys are as a brand. And obviously, you're the face of that brand, and you put a lot of work into making what it is today, which is an absolutely incredible organization. So I want people to get to know from my community to get to know a little bit more about you. And so maybe actually really quick before we kind of go more into in depth of what we're going to talk about today, maybe just like give like a 1-2 minute like origin story of Jules, where you grew up, that type of thing. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So the fun stuff. So a little bit about myself. I recently relocated here from Toronto. I worked at some pretty cool ad agencies in the big city for about 10 years. And once I had a couple little ones of my own and decided to move back closer to family for help, mainly. I was just taking on some freelance jobs from relationships that I had from the agencies that I was working with in Toronto. And freelance turned into project-based work turned into client sign-ons, and just organically grew into this really cool small business of digital advertising. And we are actually a huge fan of OSM as well. We've been following along online and checking out your social profile. You post content that we want to see, shareable, relatable information. So definitely appreciate the support. Would you like to give a little intro about yourself and your team?
Sure, sure, absolutely. Yeah, we're just a one-stop agency in the rural area of Ontario. Belleville's our location, and we're a group of individuals that come from different walks of life, but we all have one goal, which is to serve to serve brands who are looking to build continuity as they grow and grow for the future. We really love working with brands who are looking at how can we impact the marketplace and our communities, like decades from now, not just being in it for the short term, but looking even at the next generation. How can we affect that change in a positive way? So it's a privilege that I get to be a part of that. And that's kind of the agency side. But background for me, I grew up in a rural area, on a farm life, very similar to Jules here, and always been in the countryside. Really like peace and quiet. As you can see, I'm outside now. You got the train going by here, but I love nature. I love being in it. So it was interesting when I walked into this space, and you're on a laptop computer all day, but the fact that I get to do that, be outside and kind of enjoy nature still that way, it's a happy life for me. So I enjoy it.
Cool.
Absolutely. So listen, I want to jump right in because I loved our chat like previous to today, and just a lot of great valuable things that you brought up in our conversation. I really want people to get the most value from that today. So, and as and as we've talked about, like we're experiencing, just an influx of awareness really in the marketplace about, what we do in agency life and things of that nature. And then, then the challenge becomes like helping guide the client to making the best decision for them, and things of that nature. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I think it's valuable to give people information, and I'm very, very excited about to hear what you're gonna say. But basically, let's start with like, what are you noticing in the marketplace as it pertains to like awareness about like what you're up to, working with agencies, relationships, that type of thing. What are you observing in the marketplace right now?
I would say it's been pretty clear that it's very competitive online now. and the credibility of your business sometimes falls under what your online presence shows. So whether it's through your social media platforms or your website, it's very important to portray your brand, your vision, and your goals. And the user experience has to be friendly. I think like paid ads have been a huge lately because everyone's online, everyone's clicking, and everyone's buying. Targeted ads, I get targeted all the time. I screenshot them and send them to my sister, and I'm like, should we buy these fake eyelashes? And she's like, no, they're magnets. You won't figure it out. But I'm like, I want to do it, and I got targeted with the ads, so they work. And I would say for us, we often talk about splitting paid advertising between Google ads or social ads. So there's two different ways. Sometimes businesses have enough budget to go both ways. Otherwise, we generally ask, where does your consumer find you? Do they find you scrolling through social media, or do they find you actually typing into Google and looking for your services or your product? What about you? Let's share your knowledge too.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, for anybody that's joining us now, if you got questions that you want Jules and I to answer, please put them in the comments, and we will do our best to answer those questions as we talk through. But yeah, on the point of like what I'm observing in the marketplace, definitely seeing a lot more awareness just as far as the need, the clear need that social media matters. It's been a question, I think, for a lot of brands for a very long time. Like, is this even, is this even worth the investment? And I think now brands are starting to take a second, third, fourth look, really seriously considering spend in those areas. And again, looking at continuity for their business going forward. So that's been a lot more evident to me, especially in like the tail end of 2020 going into 2021 till now. Definitely seeing more of a need for that. And I would also say that like you talk about like being strategic while being authentic, being yourself. And I'm finding that the brands that are really winning are the ones that they they have kind of a bit of a fearless approach to their marketing, where they're not afraid to talk about the stuff that might have very little to do with what they're doing as their business, but it relates with the consumer on a human level. So I think showing more of that side has been something that I've seen become way more successful for brands. So I appreciate seeing that. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Like when, as these brands are navigating the online space and they're making real business decisions, right? Like what should I do? How do I invest in should I just do it all myself? Should I bring in an agency? Like what do you think a brand should look for? What questions do you think they should ask themselves when they're trying to make that decision of, how do I go about this? Do I do it myself? Do I bring somebody in? What are some things that you typically advise people on?
Yeah, so generally when we meet with a client, we book something that we call a discovery call. This is 15 minutes to 30 minutes where we chat a little bit about them, their goals, what they've been doing, what they want to do, and a little bit about the Small Social team and our process. And we share with any client, you should meet with 2 to 3 options really, because an agency or a freelancer, that's your partner in crime. They have your back, they have your vision, they have the same goals as you. So you want to make sure that you're not investing all of this time with an agency or a person that doesn't have the same goals as you. So definitely explore options and make sure that you're not just making a decision out of last minute panic, and take the time to do that because it's extremely beneficial. We did have a question come in through Livingston Company. Do you want to cover that now or do you want to wait till the end?
Go for it. Go for it. Keep going.
Okay, it was kind of paid ad related, so I didn't want to lose touch on like the last paid ad option. But Livingston Company, super cool company, female owned. You can find them on Instagram. They asked us, Would love to hear the benefits of promoting posts or advertisements on social media. Is this something that would be a good idea for small businesses to invest in? Did you want to
Love
start?
it. Sure, sure. Like for me, the answer is if you can afford it, absolutely. Like it's invaluable to be able to target an ideal client, consumers that are ideal for you as a brand at the lowest cost possible. Like it's literally so inexpensive to advertise on Facebook. You look at traditional marketing, you look at media spend across a variety of different platforms, and you'll find that like Facebook is like one of the lowest, if not the lowest, when it comes to really like cost effective, maximizing your dollar, taking it a little bit further. So I say if you can afford it, 100%, it's awareness, right? And it's getting your stuff, your brand, your values in front of far more eyes than are likely seeing it on your pages, just as organic. So if you doing both 100%, but definitely the sponsored, yeah, if that's something you can budget, 100%. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I think advertising on social media can be very affordable for a small business. If you want to test out $100 and you spend 50 and you're not getting a return, you can pull it down. You never have to commit, you never have to waste money. I would say I'd advise against just generic boosting and actually go into ads manager, get into the targeted demographics of that. It will be more effective. Um, Agreed. If you have the money, I think it's very beneficial. It's all about staying top of mind and staying relevant and creating the brand awareness. And if anyone needs help with ads manager or navigating the back end, I mean, they could reach out to either one of us and we're happy to discuss a little bit further as well.
You brought up a really great point, Jules, around like generic, like, going into ad manager, like doing the proper setup that way. I feel like that wisdom also translates to the actual creative and the strategy around the ad itself. And I think like we're living in a world where, you're hearing the words getting thrown around like saturated. There was a time where it's like, you didn't really see ads at all on Facebook, and now it's like every other, thing on your feed is a sponsored ad. Talk a little bit about, because I think this is going to bring value too. Like, talk a bit about like your experience, your wisdom around the creative, and how valuable it is to really go in depth into looking at what the consumer will react to, what's going to resonate with them, what the objective of the ad is that you're putting out. Is it generic? Are you pushing something specific? What are some insights, tips that you have in that perspective?
Yeah, so I love this, and I hope I don't blab too long about it because sometimes I go off and I'm like, where am I? I'm lost. So number one, love the A/B testing in Ads Manager. A/B testing, you can upload two different ads. Whichever one does better, you keep. The other one fails. We actually have like mini internal contests to see who wins and who does better. We've also done some with clients. So for example, when clients really want to stay on brand, if they have that really neutral, sleek, modern look, and they don't necessarily lean toward clickable content, when you're putting money into an ad creative, it doesn't have to live on your feed. It doesn't have to look aesthetically pleasing. It needs to be clickable. You want that person to click, you want them to buy. So it has to be something flashy or a promo or a discount. So sometimes we find like it'll still be on brand. We'll still use brand colors, brand fonts, but we really want to catch the attention of the user. Unless you're an extremely large brand like Roots or Tiki's or Aritzia, you can do those basic photos that someone's really going to like the outfit and they notice the brand and they click on it. If you're building up the brand, you need something to really call it out and make it clickable, because I find that in our experience when we're testing it, those get clicks, they don't get conversions as much as the ones that are offering some sort of promotional discount.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah, it's true, right? Like, and I find that quite fascinating because, and I see this all the time actually. And you'll probably appreciate this because you might see it as well. Like, you'll more often than not you'll see the generic ad, and I'm talking like in a more local setting. Like, you'll see more of the generic, like, this is what, like, the commercial, right? Like, this is what we do, and like that's the ad, right? And it's like, if the objective is like you're really trying to get somebody to go somewhere, it's like you got to make that as specific and exclusive as possible, for the consumers, that's seeing it. Make them feel special. Make them feel like they're the only ones that are going to get to take advantage of this. And I find that that's sometimes something that can easily be missed if you're not looking at the strategic end, and how are we intentionally going about this. So I love how you brought that up. I want to talk quickly to, again, bringing value. What should expectations be when brands partner with an agency to help grow, whether it be on social media, Google, etc. Let's talk social media. What are some expectations you advise people on when bringing on an agency and building that relationship?
So generally, we would review client expectations versus agency expectations in our onboarding calls. Once we onboard a client, similar to you, I'm sure, we go through a pretty lengthy and detailed onboarding process where we discuss competitors, we discuss keywords, we discuss likes, dislikes, other profiles they may like, what their main goal is. Is their main goal to get followers, engagement, post more often, create a brand presence? A lot of the times it's all of those things, but we also have to prioritize unless there's a massive budget. So I would say the nice thing about working with an agency is you get access to a full team of individuals who bring extensive experience from different areas of the digital world. And that's what I find. So sometimes we have clients that would have normally held a marketing position internally are now outsourcing to an agency because that one internal person will not necessarily be able to cover websites, Google ads, social ads, content design, creative design, where when you work with an agency, if you need access to all of that, then you have that, which is great because, I mean, in this growing digital world, your business will need access to all of it.
Love that. Love that. What's I want to go even further here. Like, what's an ideal relationship when you guys look at like who you're partnering with? Because I know you guys are busy. I know you guys have like a lot going on. So like, what are some things that you're looking for, um, or listening for when talking, with a client, onboarding? What are some things that you're looking for as you advise them? You pick up on things and say, "Oh, here's an idea. Here's a thought." Any insight from that perspective?
I think I think it's very intriguing when you have a discussion with a client and their number one focus is not just related to sales or not just related to followers. If the client expresses something to you like they give back to the community, they have an eco-friendly brand, they have a promotional discount for healthcare workers, anything that's just a little bit less, more selfless, I would say, um, excites me and excites the team. I mean, when we're looking for a client, we're also looking for a partnership. So if we don't feel like the client's heart is in it or they're really not going to give their all, then we don't want to give our all either, right? The last thing you want to do is dedicate all your team's time and energy into something that may fail because the client will not be dedicated. We want to relieve work for the client and their team, but we also need support. It's you have to hold hands a little bit. You can high five at the end. What about you? I feel like I'm talking. You could, I'm like, I would love your thoughts.
Well, I was gonna say, first and foremost, I love, your point. Like, I love your thought around, like, you're intrigued when it's like a selfless approach from, the brand that you're partnering with, and that's certainly something that excites me too because that's in my DNA. What can I do for you? That's like my, where I origin from. So that excites me 100%. I think it's also healthy when having these discussions. It's like, and it's funny because over the last several years, like I've really gotten a lot better at really asking those like pertinent business questions. Really, like how are things going in your business? Like what does that landscape look like, and then how does that impact what we're talking about here in a marketing space? So as I've navigated those conversations, I've really been able to pick up on, what is maybe a great relationship to start, right away, or maybe it's a relationship that could start, but maybe it's not the right timing. And, uncovering that really just comes down to like what's a priority for the brands that we're talking with, and what do they value. Like you say, if it's more of a, I need X number of sales and I got to meet budget by this quarter and I want to use marketing to do it, then I always suggest, well, here's some things to think about. Like, maybe it's bringing on a salesperson, maybe, looking at, what are some things that we can do sweat equity wise to build those revenue in dollars. But really think when we're having a conversation about marketing, branding really it's more of a conversation of longevity, and it's a conversation that can be uncomfortable sometimes because it's one that suggests that the ROI of something, dollars in the bank wise, won't come as soon as maybe one would want it. So that's something that I'm observing. That's something that is coming up in my conversations.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the more we get into this in-depth digital world where it's social, it's website, it's SEO, it's Google, it's creative, it's branding, it's anything online is important. You have to ask questions that are tough sometimes, and the partnership works both ways. So it's never easy to just say, I don't think this is a good fit, right? Because then it leaves the client wondering why. Um, and sometimes launch dates get delayed for other things as well. But I do think, like, whenever you're looking for an agency client partnership, it's just super important to do your research, meet a bunch of options, and have more conversations. Ask for client referrals. We often have a lot of our clients who are interested in our services. They reach out to our current clients and just shoot them an email and say, hey, how's your experience? What kind of results have you seen? What is the time management? What's the response time like? And I think that's great, because if I was them, I would also want that.
100%. And here's one that I know will interest you is, looking at how, like, what is that agency doing themselves to put themselves out there from a branding perspective. It's so interesting to me when I hear from an agency like, yeah, like, we like that you're actually practicing what you're preaching, what you're putting out there. That's certainly something that we see with you guys as well. Like, you're so active, and we love the stuff that you guys put out. Very, very educational. And I think that's something too that, brands should be looking at when they're making a decision. Is that agency doing what they're telling other people to do? So
Yeah, I think reels on Instagram lately have been a big one, and you see lots of mixed comments about, oh, I hate doing reels, or do I have to do reels? Um, I would love for it to be less work and more fun for those who are finding it a little bit more difficult, because I do think it's a great way to increase that organic growth. But don't get me wrong, like when we do reels, our behind the scenes, and if we're trying transitions or other things, like it's even tough for us sometimes, and we know that it's time consuming. And then when people talk about Instagram algorithm and when the best time to post is, it's like sometimes we post a really great reel that's super informative, and then we post a funny one with a trending song, and that one did way better. So we're learning too, right? Like everything's changing on a daily basis. New things are always coming out. We offer real packages now, which we wouldn't have offered before. So I think it's going to continue to grow. And to note on that, video content is obviously super important, and just getting comfortable having a conversation, hopping on an Instagram live. Um, Very grateful for you reaching out to set this up. I think it was very selfless and very nice. And it's great to connect within the community and share some knowledge and help people feel comfortable about whether reaching out to an agency or asking a question. And we're all going through it together, and we're all here to support one another, which is a beautiful thing.
Well, you're very kind, Jules, and I have to come back to something that you said because it really resonated with me. Like, I think that's where a lot of like people get anxiety and feel like guilt or just plain overwhelmed because you're right. There is like ever changing stuff like in our industry, right? Like every day something new's happening, and like what I always try to relay to people that I'm chatting with is like, it don't let it overwhelm you. And a way that you can do that is just look at one thing at a time and look at your overall brand and its values and then make a decision like, do I want to invest time in this right now? Is that something that I can punt down the field? Is it something that I'm into right now and I want to do it, but maybe I don't have the skill set? Okay, then maybe I need to invest to kind of learn how to do that, or bring somebody in to do it. But I think it can be easy to get overwhelmed by this type of stuff. And, I love, and I mentioned this to you before, I love the approach of like, you know, looking at it from we're here to find what's right for us versus like, this is right and that's it. And I think when people really understand that and really consider that in their own ecosystem, then it really helps them to move forward in a way that's healthy for them and also impactful in the relationships and the brand that they want to build. So
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
I know we're short for time. Really enjoying. And again, if anybody had any questions, even off of this call, you want to DM either one of us, definitely let us know and we can put that out, whether we answer you via DM or maybe it comes out in a piece of content. But let's talk about something really fun to kind of finish this off. Like, what are you looking forward to over the next 6 month period? Anything at all?
Well, honestly, I would love if there were no privacy rules again and we could look at conversion ads and full tracking. That is something I dream about and hope that I wake up to every morning and they'll be like, just kidding, app tracking is allowed for everybody. uh, that's a huge
Yeah,
that's a huge one for me. I'm definitely looking forward to more normalcy. I know that we have a lot of hospitality clients and tourism clients that were hit super hard, and I want to be able to support them. I want the community. I know that Kingston does a great job, and so does Belleville, with supporting the community and the businesses that really needed support. So I know that even locally here, one of the businesses made a huge purchase of gift cards to one of the businesses that had to shut down. I love stuff like that. I love the community support. I would love to do more Instagram lives and webinars. We did a lot of webinars in the beginning of COVID, and then they started to teeter off. I'd say like conversion tracking is my number one, and then a bunch of other little community involvement, video content, more editing, some cool stuff there. Yeah. What about you?
first of all, love it. Absolutely love it. A lot of things resonated there with me. I'm 100% looking forward to just like seeing like just happiness start to like resurface in brands that we've come to know and love. A lot of them have been like kicked with all the restrictions and things of that nature. And I'm really just looking forward to, and I'm already seeing it, like people just resurfacing and coming back in new and creative ways, which shows resilience, which really excites me. Also really excited. I'm going to be doing some of my community already knows this. I'm going to be doing some traveling this coming year. So maybe 4 months out of the next 6 months that I won't be in the country, I'll still be working. You'll still see me, but I'll just be in different places. So really, really looking forward to that, and really looking forward to having more conversations like this. Like this has definitely been a highlight for me today, and really just appreciate your time, your value, your wisdom, Jules. You're absolutely phenomenal, and I wish you nothing but the very best.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for setting this up. We will have to do it again. I actually
Absolutely.
had a couple of people reach out and say, "Hey, I'd love to be part of your show." So I was like, "It's not my show. It's actually Josh's idea, but maybe we make a combination show and invite some guests on and share
We'll
their
talk.
knowledge too." So thank you so
Absolutely.
much for reaching out and setting it up. We are huge fans of yours, and for anyone ever tuning in, just reach out anytime to either of us. And thanks for listening.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Jules, much love to you. Looking forward to chatting more. You take care.
Thanks.